We recognize that the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society gathers on the land of the Western Abenaki people. We respect their spiritual relationship to the land. We hope to learn from them how we can live together in peace and justice. Good morning, all. Good morning. It is so good to see you. Welcome to Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society, both in person and online. I am Esther Charleston, a member of this congregation. Today, I am honored to serve as the worship associate for our minister, Barnaby Feder, who is online. We're still so happy to have him. As we all know, today is an unusual Sunday for us because today is the farewell service for our minister, and the congregation will be asking him anything, so get ready. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome. We welcome you and we ask that you bring your whole self. With all your candor, doubts, worries, and hopes, join us as we journey together. Our congregation strives to be an inclusive community that offers spiritual sustenance and religious education. As we all know, there are many pathways to healthy connection here at CVUUS. Tomorrow, we have the privilege of providing supper for guests at Charter House, Middlebury's primary temporary shelter for people without housing. So we're expecting 36 guests, and we do this on the second Monday of the month. So contact Alan Moore if you have any questions. Check out your order of service for details and more information about how to participate tomorrow and in future meals for people facing food insecurity, including the community supper this Friday, June 16th. You just heard our land acknowledgement. Please note that we have a rare opportunity to easily go further in learning more about the Abenaki at the upcoming Abenaki Heritage Weekend. It's at the Maritime Museum in Virgins next Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Admission is free. There will be workshops, presentations, drumming and singing. Liam is organizing those who want to meet up and join. So come Saturday at 11. Anyone who wants to carpool up from Middlebury with Reverend Barnaby can contact him directly. Also, please note in the upcoming June worship service that next Sunday, June 18th, is the choir favorite Sunday. Yay! Celebrate all things. And it's Ronnie's last Sunday leading our choir before he heads off to his bright future in New York City. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. So you won't want to miss it. See our order of service for more pathways, and always check your weekly email blast on Wednesday for the latest updates. Woo, now that we got that out the way. No. Our last treat, Dinah Smith, one of our leaders of the Flower Bud Ministry, is going to help you connect more deeply with what you are looking at this morning.
So I brought two small arrangements to represent a larger theme that recurs in our lives. There's a rose in front with thorny stems. It's beautiful, the blossoms. We use it for all kinds of celebrations. There are onion stems. With annoying smells. We regularly use them to make enchanting food. There are lavender stems that are fragrant and heady, and we use those to heal and to calm. The peony, that's the rowdy one, with petals this way and that. Mint, we love it, and it gets into everything. So the ants, the bees, the insects love these guys, and we do too. Put it all together, and we have the essence of coexistence. So struggle, protection, nourishment, strength, comfort, beauty, like the way it happens here. It happens in the natural world. So this CVUUS community supports us to navigate our joys, tragedies, the ordinary ups and downs of our lives. And one more pathway to connection is the use of our sanctuary building by families and organizations to celebrate, to meet, and do all kinds of wonderful things. One such event was held here yesterday. It was a bat mitzvah, and the feel and the sound of joy reverberated in this space after the event when Alice and I came to close up. These beautiful flower arrangements are gifted for our use today, and I'll share that when we share this space, and it brings change of many kinds, and you'll notice that we're using a different chalice this morning, and it's a chance to be open to practice change. So, thank you, everyone.
And now for our call to worship. We lift up our hearts in thanks. And this was changed up a little bit by Reverend Barnaby. For the sun and the dawn, which we did not create, for the moon and the evening, which we did not make, for the food which we plant but cannot grow, for this gathered company which welcomes us as we are, from wherever we have come. For all our free congregations that encourage us in our quest for beauty, truth, and love. For all things which come to us as gifts of being from sources beyond ourselves, gifts of life and love and friendship and loving questions, we lift up our hearts in thanks this day. And now for the chalice lighting by my very own children, Brielle and Lawrence. Come on up. And my ask, when I get to the word loneliness in my reading, that is your cue to pick up the unison part of the reading. It will be up on the screen and in your order of service. In our slow walk between birth and death, we will be wounded, and we will be showered with grace, amazing, unending. Even in our sorrows, we feel our lives cradled in holiness we cannot comprehend. And though we each walk within a vast loneliness, the promise we offer here is that we do not walk alone. This is a holy place in which we gather, the light of the earth brought in and held. Touch then by our answering light, the flame on a chalice, the brought near in this space of silence and celebration, and name our home.
Good morning. Brielle and Lawrence, either or both of you are invited to help with this next thing that will involve taking things out of a bag. That's it. You won't have to talk or do anything else, and you also don't have to. So if you want to, if that seems fun, come on up. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I can find someone else to do it. Any interest? No. Okay. So, no, that's fine. I mean, that's why, I don't think it's fair to just put someone on the spot when I didn't ask them in advance. But I do need a volunteer who's willing to come up and take things out of a bag. Anybody? Yes! Yay! Ronnie never gets to do stuff away from the piano. Okay. All right. So Ronnie's going to pull some things out of the bag. And the question for you is what do you think this bag is for? Is one way to ask the question. So go ahead and pull some stuff out. Pride Parade. All right, yes. So someone yelled out Pride Parade, which is exactly right. So it's June, which means it is Pride Month. And it used to be that we had to fully explain what that was. And some people, I'm sure, still don't know what that is. But what's really cool is that term has spread more and more, so that now if we just say Pride, it's Pride Month. There are people who know what that means. So Pride is, oh yeah, that's awesome. So, right, Pride is about celebrating LGBTQIA+, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer or questioning, intersex, asexual, and then plus stands, for a growing number of other identities that keep growing and growing as people realize that their identity is not one they have heard named yet. So, I wanted to tell you guys about the story of rainbows and flags, and why now when you go to a Pride Parade or Pride Festival, you often are surrounded by things like this. I was going to put the sneaker up there, but that feels wrong somehow. Right, so these were made by CVUUS kids last fall for the Pride Parade that happens in Burlington, and a whole bunch of us went up. It's huge, it's amazing, and it doesn't happen in Pride Month. It doesn't happen in June because of all the college students and younger students who aren't in school. So Burlington decided to change it to a time when more people were there, and they could really lift up kids and youth and young adults. In Middlebury, last year, a Pride event started, and this is the second year that we're going to have it, and it's getting bigger, and it's a parade and a festival on the green. There's sponsors, there's drag queen story hour. I know there's food, there's vendors, there's a whole bunch of things. It's June 25th, and I'm going to have a group in the parade, and we will have these, as I hope we will have them at every Pride Parade. But I just wanted to quickly tell you something about the rainbow flag, because I didn't know this. All right, so Pride Month has actually been around for a while, since 1969. But in the 70s, in San Francisco, there was a very vocal, loud, open, public, so-called gay community, that's what they called themselves then, who marched and had protests and had parades and wore clothes and put things on their stores and their cars that really reflected identities. But at that time, all kinds of different images were being used to kind of represent LGBTQIA+ identities. And Harvey Milk, who worked in the government of San Francisco, was the first openly gay elected official in California ever, said to his friend Gilbert Baker, who was an artist and a designer who often sewed things like banners and stuff for parades, I really wish that we had a symbol that was not, that hadn't been given to us, and that wasn't like the pink triangle, which was being used at the time, which was connected to some pretty hateful, hard things. I wish we had something that was hopeful and uplifting, that we could use as a symbol to help unite our community. So Gilbert Baker went off to try to think about this, and he says he was at a disco dancing one night, and there were all these people in all these colorful clothes, and there were disco balls and lights and glitter, and he suddenly thought, like, this is what I love about this community, is that it is so colorful and glittery and lit up. right now, and it's so diverse. There's so many different people in this room right now. There were kids and adults and a big mix. And he said, I want to do a rainbow because I feel like rainbows are a sign of hope. And they also can be a sign of diversity, like all the different colors of the rainbow. So he said, I'm going to do a rainbow. And then he said, and I think we should have a flag, because flags really represent like a community or a place or a state or a country or a group. And we don't exactly have something like that. So he decided he was going to make a rainbow flag. And he and about 30 friends got together and got all this material as cheaply as they could. They dyed it in huge garbage cans, all the different stripes. They sewed it together by hand, and they were huge. I mean, they were like the size of that wall. I mean, there were two of them at the beginning, and they were very, very big. So they were used at the San Francisco, I want to make sure I get this right. Hold on. The annual Gay Freedom Parade in San Francisco in June 1978. And pretty quickly, the rainbow took off as a symbol. The flags took off, and it expanded to some of the stuff you see, right? It started as rainbow flags, and then it became rainbow signs and clothes and banners and jewelry and hair and face tattoos. And if you've ever been to a pride parade or festival, we're surrounded by that. It's pretty amazing to be in the feeling of that. And the other thing I love about the fact that the rainbow flag, which now you see everywhere, I mean, it's spread all over the world, even in countries where things like showing signs of being part of the LGBTQIA+ community are illegal. The rainbow flag is still around as a symbol in those places, even if it has to come out and then go away again. But the other thing that's really cool about the rainbow flag is that it was really made from a place of love, and because of that, it kept evolving and growing to fit the needs of the people. So the first flag had 8 stripes, and then for completely technical reasons, 2 of the stripes got dropped. Pink was hard to manufacture, and he wanted to hang banners at a parade and have the stripes evenly split between lampposts, so we got rid of another one. You may think there were these really deep reasons, but no. So then, So then this was the flag that we had for about 40 years. And it didn't change. I mean, as the flag for the whole community, that was it. But things sometimes need to change when we're doing them from a place of love. We've maybe left something out. There's something that has happened that now needs to become part of what we're using or doing or saying. And in 2017, there was a group in Philadelphia who was going to have a pride parade and festival, and they decided that they really wanted to lift up people of color who had always been part of the LGBTQIA+ community, but often were not seen that much. The community was a mostly white community, and people of color were discriminated against and not given enough voice. So black and brown stripes were added to that one, and then a year later, one more change was made to make the flag that we have out front so they kept the brown and black, but they added the colors of the transgender flag, and instead of just sticking with stripes, he changed it to be this shape here, it's called a chevron, because he felt like the flag should be about action. It's not like we just have stripes that are there and staying in our flat. It's about action that we still need to take. We still need to make progress. So that was kind of that. He put it on the left side because he felt like it was showing we still got to go across the flag, like there's still, right, we still have places to go. And other people, I mean, this has evolved even more. You might see one that has an intersex symbol or a yellow triangle filled in. The other thing that's interesting that a lot of people don't necessarily know is that within the LGBTQIA+ community, there are flags and colors for individual identities. So the rainbow is like the big rainbow umbrella, but then within certain communities and certain identities, there might be other flags that are used. So for example, on my daughter's sneakers, she has shoelaces that are the bisexual colors. This is what the bisexual flag looks like. So that's kind of fun. If you look it up, there's like 40, at least 40, and those are probably growing too, right? Just like we see more identities, there's more colors. And I want to close by saying the reason the rainbow, I mean, it's interesting to me, just the origin of the rainbow flag, because you see it everywhere, and I hadn't really thought about exactly how it started. But the thing that I really love about the story of it is that it's a story of trying to create something to unify people, to try to be uplifting, to identify we are part of a community, and it grows and changes. It didn't, Gilbert Baker didn't say, no, you can't, no, don't change the flag, that's not okay. He himself changed the flag, because that's what you do when you are acting from a place of love. And I feel like our faith makes an effort to do that too. So the number of principles we've had over time has changed. Language that we've used in hymns and in wording of important prayers and readings that we have changed, because we've realized the way we said it before it is not really from a place of love, and that's been pointed out to us. So the story of the flag reminds me a bit of our faith. And we're at a time also where in the next couple years, our principles and some things about words we look at to represent ourselves are probably going to change and are being talked about. So I offer that up with the idea of acting from a place of love, being willing to look at making changes for that reason. And I encourage everybody to go to the Pride Parade and Festival on Sunday, June 25th. More information will be coming from me about that in the next couple weeks. And now we will sing our amazing kids over to the Religious Exploration Program. And one note about that. Again, in the spirit of change from a place of love, Reverend Barnaby made some tweaks in the words to the song we're going to sing. So we're going to sing this song, Let Us Open Our Eyes. But the words are different. So you'll want to look at the screen to see. And he'll talk later about why he made those changes today. All right, so kids, if anybody wants to grab our
of this congregation. This month we are splitting our Share the Plate offerings with the Rutland Area NAACP, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about them. I've been part of the Rutland Area NAACP since almost its beginning. They held a few planning meetings before I started going, but I've been on the board since we were chartered in 2016, currently serving as the first vice president and the media chair. I think Barnaby talked about the logistics of what we do a little bit last week, and I would be happy to answer any questions about that. But I wanted to talk today more about the impact of the organization and my part in it on myself personally and on my sort of spiritual journey. This may be like a little deeper than this role in the service usually is, so bear with me, please. The harm caused by racism and systems of white supremacy on people of color, like the benefits white people get from those systems, are profound and often manifest in our physical lives. The harms that white supremacy does to white people are harder to see, and as a white person, I want to address that a little. When we were discussing adopting the eighth principle, I said something to the effect that it is my belief and my experience that racism steals from white people some of our humanity. You might be familiar with the phrase, no ethical consumption under capitalism, meaning that the construct of capitalism and our immersion in it inherently limits, contaminates our choices so that anything I might buy is made possible by or implicated in the harm of someone or some ecosystem. I think the history of colonialism and the deep culture of white supremacy result in a similar catch-22. No ethical whiteness under white supremacy. Any choice I make is made possible by or implicated in the genocide of the native people of this country, the legacy of enslavement, and the current oppression of people of color. And that's all tied to capitalism too, but that's a different conversation. Now, of course, it's not our fault that we're born into this system. And I think it can be tempting for those of us who are white in Vermont to feel like the worst of racism is elsewhere and there is not so much we can do about it. Working with the NAACP helps me to understand the depth of racism present here, and it gives me something to do. I don't know about you all, but the scale of the things wrong with the world right now is pretty daunting to me. And I can't solve racism, but I can make sure the website is updated and send the press release for events like the one we held last month that brought together state's attorney, local leaders, local community members to talk about how discrimination shows up in our towns and how our systems to deal with it are working or not working. I can screen our social media for hateful messages. I can find sponsors for our fundraisers. I can help us get appropriate Black History Month materials into schools. We average like 2 to 3 complaints of discrimination a month typically, but that tends to go way up in February, with parents reaching out to tell us how their Black kids were singled out or asked to role play enslaved people or otherwise traumatized by the way their schools handle Black History Month. I can follow the leadership of the amazing Black women in the organization, and I can do those real things with my time and my brain and my body, and they make a difference. Our branch of the NAACP makes a difference. A small difference, maybe in the scope of things, but a real one. My desire for a more just world isn't a desire to help other people. I mean, I hope I do, I hope we do, but my commitment to the NAACP is a commitment to myself to reclaim some of the humanity, the integrity that white supremacy steals and has stolen from me. I know all of you are working against the machines of destruction and oppression in your own ways: climate change, voting rights, migrant workers, reproductive freedom, trans and queer rights. It's all woven together. It all matters. I hope that this month you'll join me in pulling this thread, throwing a wrench in this particular cog, and supporting this local Black-led racial justice organization. Indeed, I hope you'll donate today and this month and then also become a member. it will be good for your soul. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me at this point. I'm hearing a little bit of indication that you can, so I'm going to proceed. This is the time in our service when we have milestones and passages. And I want to share first that I had a long catch-up call this week with Molly Darrell. Some people will remember you as remember her as active in our RE program and then as our office manager before Nita, who was before Laura. And Molly moved to Baltimore and she's been living there for 10 years, but she's remained a member of the congregation all this time. And I got in touch with her to ask, would she rather be considered a friend? And she said, as long as I get to remain in the directory so people can reach me if they want, because CVUUS was an incredibly important part of my life. And she wants to be remembered here. If anybody goes to visit Baltimore, they should give her a call. And she would love to see you. Laura, as some of you know, is out of town to go to the funeral of her youngest brother who died on a fishing trip. She'll be back Thursday. She's very appreciative of all the wonderful messages she's received. She said her brother should be remembered as someone who went on to become an OR nurse like their mother. And all the other OR nurses have been commenting on Facebook that they'll never forget his infectious smile and his bear hugs. And that's the way Laura wants him remembered. Also, Esther's aunt, who was here for Esther's wedding, but was unable to actually attend because she broke her hip at the rehearsal dinner, died this past week. Her name was Philomen, and she was 89, so she lived a long, rich life. Esther describes her passing as of a kind of a release. She'll be leaving right after the service to go to that funeral. So I really appreciate Esther being here today. And it's good time to note that Esther's birthday was Friday, and she'll be one of the people celebrated on the birthday cakes downstairs, a patchwork of 4 different cakes that Michelle made. And as a milestone, this would be the last time Michelle is going to be making cakes because of my retirement, and we need to see how the new minister feels about her level of involvement with the congregation. But we hope someone will continue with the birthday cake reputation ritual. So I'm at home because I tested positive for COVID Friday. Things are getting better, but I wanted to be careful. And I'm not the only one in the congregation with COVID. So I'm grateful for Zoom that allows us to be together on this Sunday. And it's kind of fitting in some ways that my last time with you is over Zoom. My last time with you as your minister. I'll be a congregant in the future, and I hope to be able to be with you once we've finished all of our transitions as a congregant, and maybe someday a guest preacher. I want to invite you into a brief time of silence, which we follow by the choir anthem, which Ronnie will start when the choir is ready. Okay, if you can hear me, just wave. All right, thank you. So this will be an experiment. I hope this doesn't feel like too much of a trick that I called it Ask Barnaby Anything, but we had so much wonderful stuff in the first part of the service that there isn't going to be a lot of time to ask me too much. Let me just start by saying that if you have a question that's not answered, please email me. You've still got me as your minister till the end of June, and I will make an effort to answer you personally. Now, Esther's going to take the microphone into the audience, and people are free to put a question to me. And I will try to listen to you, although I need to turn down my speaker here so that we don't get echo after you've asked your question.
So, Barnaby, I'm going to cheat. I have two questions. So, the first question is, have you thought about what the very first thing you're going to do when you take off your robe, and what is it? And the second question I have is, when the New York Times ran the story about the owl in the tree, did you see that as simply another New York Times story, or did you see that as an act of divine inspiration?
Avi, so thank you for that. Let me answer the second question first. It certainly wasn't an act of divine inspiration on the part of the Times. It was business as usual. But when you're in ministry and you're part of a congregation that's looking to make meaning in the world, everything to me has become an invitation to think about how these things are connected. And one of the things that's made my life as a minister a lot better than my life as a reporter in some ways is that in a minister, you're not bound by what you can cite as a source. Your imagination gets a say in what you're doing. And if that makes a truer story, then that's the story you go with. So that's how we ended up with Philia the Owl as a commentator and questioner and conversationalist with me. Many of you have heard some of those services, and I often say to you, I think it's more important to have a God you can talk to than a God you believe in. It's nice to have both, but Philia was kind of a way of me getting a God I could talk to. And so I don't think the Times had a role in that. I think you had a role in that. By knowing that I had a group of people that wanted me to bring all of myself, including my imagination, to speak with on Sunday, was the source of the divine inspiration. The first question, what will I do the day after? There really is no day after once you're a minister. It's the day after my full-time service at CVUUS, but I'll be in a transition period to becoming a congregant. I'll start doing the things that make that work, and I'll also be looking to engage in half-time ministry, probably with St. Johnsbury, Vermont, as a way of keeping myself busy, doing some work at the college, doing some work at Gather on a volunteer basis, the drop-ins at Zen Drop-In Center in the Green, and maybe some service on some local boards. So it's not retirement in the sense of sitting home and reading books or being more available to Michelle to help in the garden. Next question.
What gives you hope these days?
Okay, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat it, please?
What gives you hope these days? And has that changed?
I have a feeling what gives me hope hasn't changed, but my understanding of it and the words I would use to describe it have. I think that that's part of the beauty of our particular faith, is that we aren't wedded to particular ways of expressing what probably is underlying truth that doesn't change that much. But we take our experiences and we say, oh, this is how I see it now. I think hope is it's there whenever you can see the next thing you want to do that might make things better. Which in this case is just clearing my throat. You can actually train yourself to always look around to find the next thing you can do that might make things better. So I think hope is always there. And at a point when it feels like you're hopeless, it's because you're hoping for things that can't happen. You're attached to a particular result and you aren't really open to the things that can happen, is my view. But I was blessed with the personality that can let things go. And I know that's not easy for a lot of other people. And I learned a lot from watching how they cope with a world that presents very differently than my world does to me. Partly because of the privilege I've enjoyed in our society, but partly just because of the luck of personality.
Barnaby, this is Liam, and I'm wrestling with the difference between universalism from a Christian theological point of view and universalism from a Neil deGrasse Tyson point of view of seeing the universe as a way of speaking to our unity. I'm wondering if UU is also caught between the theological universalism of a Christian tradition and the universalism that speaks to our oneness with the universe. How does that tension play out within our denomination, within our community, and within history? In 20 seconds or less.
So the 20-second version is, Liam, I love you for asking that question. And we can be drinking beer for years talking about it. I think the theologies are different. And people whose theology is very much tied with our being one with the universe don't have a problem between the two. But people who have other kinds of theology, as you've noted, have a gap to deal with. One of the best explanations for how Unitarian Universalism evolved that I think works for everybody is saying, all right, what our relationship is to the universe is up for grabs, and there's a lot that's mystery that we don't understand, but we're universalists in the sense that we believe the same thing happens to everybody. There isn't a group of people that end up in something called hell and a group of people that end up in something called heaven. So I think that theologically is where these two things may come together. human beings, our little spot in the universe and time and space is such that it's pretty certain that on the cosmic scale, the same thing is going to happen to everybody. And, we can start from that point and weave all the different possibilities.
Marjorie Carson. It's sort of two questions. The first one is not so important, but do you have a favorite hymn? And the question I'm more interested in, is there a hymn in our hymnal that you think we should sing more often?
Lovely questions, Marjorie, and I'm not surprised you asked about music. Someone once said their favorite meal was the one that was in front of them. And I think that my favorite hymn tends to be the one that fits where I am at the moment. And one of the things I value about the hymnal is that there's such a variety of things that can be represented in those hymns. At different times, Fire of Commitment and Blue Boat Home, Wake Up My Senses, all of the old standards have all been my favorite hymn. Prayer for This House, the first one, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door, is often something that really captures where I am at the moment. There's one deep in the hymn by Ridgely Torrance. I can't remember his name right now, but we don't sing it very often, but it's a variation on a psalm. And that one for a long time has been very meaningful to me. And it's about singing praise to the mystery for as long as we live. And noticing that all life tends to bend towards this mystery in its own way. For me, that's always been meaningful on a deep way. There's lots of hymns I wish we could sing more often, but it has to do with, who we are and how much we get to practice singing them. So I think I'm going to pass on that. I've had a lot of choice in what we've sung. I'm sure once I'm a congregant, there will be lots of hymns I wish we'd sing more often. I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions. I don't want to run too far over. So,
Barnaby, Carl Lindholm, you're a writer. You're retiring from full-time work. You talked about the many projects you have. Don't you have a writing project? Is it a writing project of scope? What outlets would you like to see it appear in? What's going on there?
I think if I have a writing project currently, it'll be distilling a lot of what I've written here into something that's more manageable. Our closing hymn is going to be Spirit of Life, number 123 in the Great Hymnal. If I write 2 more weekend greetings, my last weekend greeting to you will be Weekend Greeting 123. So we can get woo-wooey about that for our mystical folks. But before that, I was writing tweaks twice a week. And before that, at the beginning of it, 5 days a week. So there's a lot of material to go through there that represents my living interaction with the congregation. And I think I would try and mine that before I tried to write something new. I have a novelist in the family. I'll leave that to Michelle. I don't think I'm going to embark on something like that. And at this point, there isn't any particular historical project that really grabs me. Maybe I'll preempt the last question because Esther and I had a question prepared in case nobody had a question to start with. And it was, what was it I was going to say about changing the words of let us open our eyes? I think one of the things that's become so much more important to me in my last year serving you is really understanding the depth of the words living tradition when we talk about who we are. And it's been very much related to our adopting our new social action covenant and this stuff that was referred to about changing the UU principles after 40 years. I don't think it's actually an accident that the gay flag was, the LGBTQ flag was changed after 40 years, and we're talking about changing the UU principles after 40 years, and the Bible talks about 40 as a long time. The ark is floating for 40 days before land is seen. That number shows up over and over. It's something about generations passing and how much time it takes to really come to grips with how something important needs to change. And so I think that there's a lot of vitality in this moment in Unitarian Universalism. And for me, it's like a veil being pulled back, and we can really see what living tradition means when we have a new social action covenant that allows us to look at this song we sing over and over and we love, like Let Us Open Our Eyes to see what is beautiful, and realize, well, we have a blind member of the congregation who doesn't come very often because it's kind of hard for him. And to make it worse, we would sing as if everybody can see that way, when in fact, we relate to the world through all of our senses. So, our new covenant made me think about it and say, with a little tweak of the words, we can change this to all of our senses. And this goes back to Hannah's question about hope. I think hope lies in how easy it is to do lots of little steps by just staying awake to the possibilities of cumulative change and really go someplace. And I think that this is a really exciting time for our congregation and Unitarian Universalism in that respect. So I would keep tweaking the words of hymns and keep tweaking how we do chalice lightings and to make them absolutely perfect for that day. I wouldn't tweak them and put them out with the changed words into public on something that's published widely, because you need the author's permission for that. But as part of a gathering and a worship service, we can do with them what fits our needs, as long as we aren't appropriating them and really changing their meaning. But if we're radicalizing the love in them, I feel permitted to do that. That's what we're here for. So I'd like to close with that.
Barnaby?
Yep.
Oh, we have one more question. Is that all right?
It's okay with me if people aren't anxious to get to the cakes.
Oh, boy. This Abby Sessions here. This is a quick question, I think. Barnaby, we were your first congregation and your last congregation. So your entire experience of paid ministry is with us. What has surprised you most about your 11 years of paid ministry with us?
Well, I have to correct you, Abby, because I was a minister at the fellowship in the Poconos for a year as I was finishing my internship, but I was the only one there. My supervisors were remote and dependent on me to describe what happened. And this won't be my last ministry, because I'll be hopefully working with St. Johnsbury in a paid, although half-time position next year at least. But there's no question that CVUUS has been the heart of my ministry. And I couldn't have prayed for anything more than that my first called ministry would be so successful that that would take me all the way to when I felt it was time to start stepping down. So what has surprised me the most, what surprised me the most is how what I was learning about ministry seemed to accelerate rather than slow down as I went on. I think that there's sort of a cumulative learning that goes on. I don't know how long you have to be a minister before that slows down, but I feel like I learned even more in my last year here than I did at my first about what it is to be a minister. Now, the extraordinary events of COVID have something to do with that. I think even the aging of the congregation has something to do with that. The whole issue of how we age gracefully and successfully is even more in the forefront. That's just part of the baby boom demographics, and will continue for a while. But we've got an opportunity to to think very lovingly and effectively about the last stages of life and how much there is to do and how powerful it can be, and to do the really, really hard work of creating a next generation coming along in that atmosphere. So I think the thing I learned was that the more you put into it, the more you get, the more learning opportunities there are. If you've got a great congregation like CVUUS, they're helping you along. So with that, thank you for that last question, Abby. And Abby, I should say, is a good example. One of the things I learned in the sense that my early years, Abby was very active at RE. I didn't have much sense of who Abby was because she was so busy helping Poppy. And it was only in the last few years when she became really active on the worship team that I had a chance to really experience Abby. And so I think that this is true of congregational life. People move in and out of different activities, and there are always wonderful surprises when people repot themselves. So that's something that congregations have that not many other organizations do. We're going to have the closing song, Spirit of Life, as I mentioned, number 123, and invite you to stand in body or spirit and sing it. So I remembered to unmute, give Richard a chance to get my mic on again. After all this time to throw a remote minister at Richard is just a symbol of how much tech scrambling we've done over the years. So thank you, Richard, for shepherding us through. These services are never perfect technically, but they can be perfect spiritually, or pretty damn close. And I hope that it worked that way for you. And I know that if there's a little gap, getting downstairs and having that cake is going to fill it. So have a great time. And if someone can save a little piece of that for Steve Fiddler, if he's not there, I know his was one of the June birthdays, and I would love to get him a piece of the cake.